Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. Roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? I want a man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West. Internet.
Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
Welcome to another episode of Auto Off Topic. Should I do the number?
Of the episode?
It's kind of a significant number.
Is it 350?
It is 350.
Oh, all right. TSI
350.
SS 350. Welcome to Auto Off Topic, episode TSI SS 350.
There we go. I got it. I got the title already.
Perfect. Now I can change my Instagram name. That's all I've been waiting for.
Yeah. 350 hours of us.
Give or take.
Plus.
I'd say it probably averages out to about that, for sure. We've had a few short ones, a few longer ones. But we try to keep it about an hour. For our own sanity.
Also, not a thunderstorm.
Well, if you want to wait an hour or so, there could be that situation here.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. Well, we'll hopefully get this in
monsoon season.
Power.
Yeah, monsoon season is in effect. We had our first rains last night. We had humidity today, and the clouds are building up north, so you can see them kind of coming down the hill into the valley. And pretty sure we're going to get some more rain tonight. So we'll see. So could be gnarly storms. Last night we had 50-mile-an-hour gusts, so that was pretty gnarly. So,
whoa!
Anyway, yeah,
faster than most of your cars.
I mean, come on, man, they'll do 50. Jeez, that's a low bar. None of my cars have low-speed vehicle plates. All right. I mean, the bar is low when it comes to my cars anyway, but it's not that low. Most of them do at least 75.
What want to do first? You want to do project car updates?
I don't see why not. What do you got going on?
Well, I finished.
Just get right into it.
Yeah, might as well, and then we'll get some other car news to talk about afterwards. So I finished the leather to cloth conversion on the Montero, and that basically meant that I took the driver's seat out, and of course the seat bottom was different because it was power, but because it's cloth, I was able to kind of fudge it.
Okay,
and put the I kind of folded up the fabric a little bit and fold it over so it was tight, and just clip the hog rings around the steel frame. And, they're down the bottom. You can't see them. So worked out. But it came out decent. Like, it's a little wrinkly, but a lot better than ripped leather, I think.
So in looking at the pictures that you've shown me, it's a little bit wrinkly, but it's no more wrinkly than a cloth seat that's been in a vehicle since 1999 would be.
Yeah, I suppose it like the more I look at it too, now I've been driving it a couple times over the last couple days, and like putting my weight into the seat, it kind of shifted around. It doesn't even look as bad anymore.
Yeah, and again,
not that it looked bad, actually. It didn't look that bad at all. It looks way better.
You just need to match the patina of the vehicle, right? And that's what you've done.
Yeah. The bolster on the driver's side was ripped open. So
yep, this is definitely better than that.
Yeah. But yeah, and then it was like it has slight, like I said, a slight tobacco smell to it. And we talked about an ozone bomb or an ozone generator. Well, it turns out Disco Steve, Steve Booten, listener, who's, relatively nearby, we met up over the weekend because we went to the NASCAR race, and we'll get to that. But he let me borrow an ozone generator they had. So, that thing's pretty interesting. Mixed information on the internet. They either work really good for smells, or other websites say that they do not work at all that way and are terrible for you. So, I don't know.
I know he had good luck with it. What kind of luck did you have with it?
I ran it for 2 hours one night, let the truck air out. Ran it for 2 hours the next day, let it air out. There's like a little bit of a weird ozone smell that's left for a little bit. But then, like today, I was driving it around this afternoon with the windows down. It's basically doesn't smell anymore. It's weird.
And the tobacco smell is gone?
It's gone.
I mean, that's definitely the offending part, right? So,
yeah, I don't really understand how they work. It's somehow like by the ozone like bonds with the scent molecules and like destroys them or something. It feels a bit like snake oil, but
I mean, it's not snake oil if it works.
Seem to work. Yeah, it's strange because there's like literally like .gov websites that are like, these things are terrible, you should never use them. And there's other websites that are like, no, they totally work, like Reddit posts. So I don't know.
Yeah, the post you shared, it seems like they did the wrong.
That's a different one.
Yeah.
I was looking up in like the car detailing section. The post I shared was the one I thought of the other week when I was talking about how powerful they are. And they feel like they're the ones they sell are like way too powerful for people to have.
Yeah, like the guy ruined his house.
Yeah. Because it does, like, if you used it too much, because the ozone, you can like damage like rubber seals and stuff in the car. So
I'm not even clear on what ozone is.
It's like when there's an electrical charge, it like splits air atoms. Like, have you ever had a lightning strike really close to you?
Not close enough to smell it, no.
Yeah, I've had it happen once where it was close enough where it hit. I was actually in my parents' garage, luckily inside the garage, so it must have hit somewhere like in the yard or something. Like it was loud, and then all you could smell was ozone. So it's like when you get that like burning electrical smell, that's usually like the ozone smell.
Okay.
Because it's something with electrical charge splitting off oxygen atoms apart, and they just become like unstable. So you're just like smelling that.
So you put an A-bomb in your car?
Not really, but yeah. And I'm not a chemist, so I'm not very good at explaining this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have any better understanding of it than I did when I asked the question. So,
but like when you like remember when the slot car track could be using it, and like
sure.
the controls kind of get hot and they have kind of like a smell.
Yeah, the cars have a smell.
Yeah, that's
it's the same smell when you're using like electric impact tools. Like that same hot electric motor smell.
Yeah, because it's just like heating up the air with the electricity and around it. And yeah, it just gets a little bit of ozone. So,
well, I'd like you to go back to high school and get a better education so you can explain this better to me next time.
I would have wished I had a better math education in high school so I could explain it to you better, but I did not. So all we got was English. That's it. And even that is questionable.
Yes, it is.
But anyway, they do seem to work. I guess use with caution. Like you literally, that is the constant thing. Like you should not be in the same space while you're running it because it does destroy the oxygen around. Like it kind of makes the oxygen like inert in the car. So not inert, but like unbreathable.
Which is also odd.
Yeah. So yeah, you should not occupy the space that you're operating them in at all, ever. That's definitely a thing. Like even I would, when it's on a timer. So I just set a timer on my phone. Okay, it's done. Then I unplug it, the extension cord, and then you just open the doors of the car. Like, do this outside, don't do it in a garage because it needs to disperse. So open the doors to the garage, to the car, and then don't get in the car. Just let it air out for a few minutes, like it's a hot car.
Okay.
You know, because it is not good for you to breathe. But it does kill the smell. So there's that.
Well, I have a stinky car here that I'd like to use it on, so maybe I'll pick one up.
I shared this in the Discord, but a hilarious auto off topic only type story. I would sometimes be in the driveway and like shifting the Montero from like park to drive to reverse, and probably like moving and leaning in the seat, and there'd be like a loud popping noise. And I was like, that's weird. And I'd like check the whole front suspension. Nothing's loose. No sway bar links in the front or loose. It's all good. It's really weird. It just kept doing it like kind of randomly. So I took the seat out. There was a Polar 1 liter bottle stuck underneath it. So that was making my popping and creaking sound.
Well, at least it was an easy fix. And I do appreciate that it was a Polar bottle and not an off-brand seltzer bottle. So
No, I don't even. It was, it happens because I'll go on like a trip and I'll buy some for the trip. I probably went to the rally or somewhere and I'm just drinking 1 liters and you don't want to throw them out of the car. So I just throw them in the back seat and I'm like, I'll recycle them when I get home. And this one must have rolled under the driver's seat and had been there for probably a year or two.
Irritating sound the whole entire time. And all it was trash.
Yeah.
But a Polar bottle.
Yep. I mean, that's like when I worked at Mitsubishi, we had a customer car. The lady was complaining about a clicking noise. She'd go around corners or stop and stuff. Finally, the tech found like lipstick under the seat that was like rolling around. Like it got somehow like into one of the under seat vents for the heat. It was just like rolling around.
I mean, things are going to make noise. They're going to echo through the car, and it's going to be an issue. And it's hopefully something small, usually like that. But there were some other interesting stories like that working in dealerships of small things caught in places and causing havoc on the cars. I remember the 3rd gen Eclipses used to come in all the time for the radio not working. And it was like a penny in the cigarette lighter.
Oh, it would blow it.
Well, the fuse for the cigarette lighter would shared the fuse with the radio. But where the cigarette lighter was placed in the car was like right next to like the little coin holder. So they would wind up in there all the time.
I may have spoke too soon. I think I just heard some thunder.
Oh, no. It's all right. Hopefully it's far enough away that it won't be a huge storm and absolutely affect your power again. So,
anyway, yeah, I'm really happy with the way the seats came out. It looks much better. I'm surprised actually how well like they match. I mean, they're in the brown family, so it just kind of works.
I mean, it's the same manufacturer, so the vehicle is available with both things. So I'm not surprised.
Well, the brown trim, the plastic trim in the donor truck is a different color. It's darker.
Right. But it's not so far off because it's not a totally different vehicle.
So, worked pretty well. And I'll, I've got like some spare parts kicking around for the seats. I think I'm going to save them till like the end of the summer, make sure everything works out. And if it does, then I'm just going to throw them up on the Montero page. Like, hey, these are free or going to scrap. Because it's literally just foam over metal seat frames that I don't think anybody will need. But maybe somebody will want the base, but I don't need to hold on to them. And they're good scrap steel. So
not a wearable item that you're concerned about breaking.
No. not super rare either. But anyways. So yeah, that was pretty good. I did that. I got the Galant out of the garage because this is the other motivation for doing the seat project, was getting the seats there behind the Galant. So I could not get the Galant out because I was like, I need to put those seats in. So I'm not just like moving them around anytime I want to get a car out, because that'd be really annoying. So I got the Galant out of the garage, and I was like, it needs a sticker. I haven't done a sticker yet. It was due in May, but in Mass now, if I can actually kind of like it. If you miss the month, they just backdate the sticker. It's like, fine. Works for me. So anyway, I got it, it starts right up. It idles a lot nicer now. It runs a lot better. So either the temp sensor I knew the temp sensor was messed up. So that was part of it. Maybe the injectors were clogged, the old ones. I don't know. I didn't really try to clean them.
Temp sensor does a lot on Mitsubishi.
It does do a lot. Car idles a lot better, a lot smoother. It does sometimes it does have a bit of an extended start now, I think, because of the fuel pressure regulator.
The fuel has to go
further. Build up a little bit further. Yeah, it does. Has to go about like a foot further to fill up. And the Talon has a bit of a extended start, only when they've been sitting for a while and the fuel pressure bleeds off.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Just that extra piping under the hood.
Yeah. Once we discovered that when you turn the key on, the pump does not run. It doesn't run until the engine is turning and it's getting the signal from the CAS. So the only thing I'm hoping, no, because the car runs. So I know the CAS is not bad, but I'm like, maybe I don't have a spare CAS kicking around. I have two of these cars. I should really have a spare one in the toolbox, probably.
I bet if you gave it like a quick crank 3 or 4 times to prime the pump more than normal, it probably would cut down that extended crank, because when you first start it primes the pump when the crank angle sensor first sees that signal.
Yeah.
And it's set to prime a certain amount, and that certain amount doesn't make up for that extra distance you've added. So I wonder if that, just like giving it a couple quick little clicks on the key might stop that extended crank.
Yeah, it's only when it's like cold. Once it's been running, except
old carbureted Mitsubishis.
Well, here's the thing. I had it at the sticker station. It was pretty hot the other day, but not super hot. He had it inside idling, and then he shut it off. He's like, all right, you're all set. He just usually lets me back it out. The guy pulls it in, the car in, because they have to pull it in, but then, I don't know, it's like, whatever. So I go to start it, and I'm in the bay, and it wouldn't start. It was like just cranking. Just cranking.
Embarrassing.
And then you can smell fuel. Yeah. Like it flooded. So I don't know if it like somehow heat soaked and like boiled the fuel in the regulator right there. It was weird. I never had it happen. The only time I had that happen with a hot refire was we were at the Tail of the Dragon with the car.
It was real hot.
After we were running it up in town, the Dragon. So that was really weird. I was like, he's like, it won't start. He's like, it smells flooded. I'm like, yeah. He's like, that happened a lot. I'm like, not often, ever. So luckily it's flat over there. I just pushed it out. I'm like, because there's other people waiting to get stickers. I sat for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then a little extended crank, and it fired up. That was good. Drove it around. Been fine. So,
well, keep an eye on it, because that could also be a thing, that maybe your extra fuel line is too close to the exhaust manifold's in the front, so it shouldn't be too close to that.
It's the exact same setup as the Talon, and I've never had a problem with that.
Because normally the vapor lock issue is fixed. The boiling fuel in the lines is fixed by running more fuel line, so you have more fuel line to cool it off with. But maybe it's just too close to something and under the hood where it was. When you turn a car off, the temperature continues to go up as heat soak happens.
Yeah, so, it was hot.
Yeah,
it was inside a building. There was no airflow.
Maybe it was a weird little vapor lock situation.
That's what it seems like. And it was just like, I'll keep an eye on it. But I was like, I hope like the cast is not intermittently going out. So they're both original to each car. I've never changed them in 30 years.
Yeah, they're not known to not be reliable either. So I don't know if, other than my car, I've never heard of one really failing too bad.
No, but they are 30-year-old parts.
Yeah, no question. No question. And they're not on every parts shelf on every parts store in town either. So
no.
And then when you do buy one, they're bad.
Yeah, but car does run a lot better. It wasn't the thing that was annoying me, and it must have been with the sensor. It had modern car. I think I've talked about it before. It had modern car rev hang.
Yep.
Which it should not have at all. So like you'd like go to shift or like let off the gas. It's partially because there's a tricky speed sensor in the cluster that messes stuff up too. But like I let off the gas in second and I would not have like no engine braking. Like it wouldn't let the revs come down. And I think because it thought the engine was too cold and it was like keeping it idling up because it thought it was going to stall. So now it like actually like it was when I first basically put the car back together, how it ran for many years. When you give it throttle, then let off the gas in second gear, you actually have like engine braking, and it like slows down and you get like some nice burble on decel. So it's running a lot better. Very happy with it.
Excellent. Yeah, I remember it being, we thought, tied to that speed sensor in the dash because the rev would go up when the car started rolling.
Yeah, it still does that. And the Talon will do that too. It's the weirdest thing. It will raise the revs based on speed. And interestingly, in ECM Link, you cannot turn that off. I wish they would do something where you could just turn that off or adjust it, like give it an offset or something. Because it's weird, because you can just not touching the brakes, not touching the power steering, perfectly straight, like roll down an incline in your driveway, and the revs will just come up.
Yeah.
You don't have the AC on, nothing.
See, it's funny because
And that's just so...
my non-turbo car doesn't do that.
It might be working right. It's just that it does it so that the car, when you let off the gas and you're rolling, the car doesn't stall. It doesn't go to just zero throttle position. It keeps it open just enough, but it feels unnecessary. I don't know. Feels like something that you could adjust out if you had the option, because there's a lot of options in ECM Link. But anyway,
It feels like a Band-Aid for something that they thought consumers would complain about.
yeah. The next thing the car needs alignment, because I never did anything after I put the coilovers in. So, but now it's running well. Knock wood. I don't mind dropping it off at the alignment place, because I know it'll be all right for them to try to move it around.
As long as they don't try to refire it 5 minutes after shutting it off.
Yeah, I don't think they would. But what was weird, back out of the garage, I knew I had spilt a little bit of coolant doing the coolant temp sensor. Then I look, and there's a big oil spot under the passenger side wheel well. I'm like, great. Excuse me. Need a little water.
Like a brake fluid kind of spot?
I was like, oh man, I blew another brake line while it was sitting. That's annoying. But whatever, I'll replace it. So this is before I went to go get a sticker. I'm like, great. So I'm like looking at it, looking underneath, flashlight, turn the wheels, look. Brake line's completely dry. Rear of the wheel well, covered in oil. Okay. Check all the fluids, look at the transmission, look underneath. There's like I've got like a little gear oil leak. I think it's either between the transmission or the transfer case. It's kind of dripping. I got to check which seal's bad. I think it's the TK seal on the front end, because I already did the transmission one at one point. But anyway, it's got plenty of oil, plenty of brake fluid, plenty of coolant, plenty of power steering fluid. I'm like, what is this stuff? And I'm looking, the coilover seems like it's a little wet. Like maybe the coilover like just burped out some oil from sitting, which is weird.
Something to
'Cause
do
it was
with
like-
heat cycling, maybe?
in my garage. Very strange.
Yeah.
Because I felt it, right? And it was like, didn't have engine oil smell. Because engine oil smell usually has like a little bit of a gas smell to it. Didn't smell like gear oil, definitely. It kind of had like no smell. It was like real slippery. And that's why I was like, well, maybe this is brake fluid, because brake fluid doesn't really have too much of a smell and it feels really oily.
Right.
But the brake lines are all dry and the fluid's full. So I don't know. It was very light oil. So maybe it's shock oil. Very strange. Never seen that before.
Yeah, I've never seen that at all. Is it still leaking? I mean, there's a seal on the top, and if it's gone, then they're fairly new.
I mean,
I'm sure they
it
take
would-
care of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably out of warranty by time, but they are rebuildable. That's why I've got those. But it seems like it's fine. It doesn't feel like it's blown out. Like it was just like a little overfilled or something. It's really weird. I'll take a wheel off and look at it, but I think it'll be all right. I don't know. It's like, it was probably like 2 ounces of oil spread out over the floor.
Probably wasn't even that
So-
much. The way oil makes its
Yeah,
the way oil moves
It's just-
around.
very strange.
Hmm.
But that's kind of all my project car updates.
I guess keep an eye on it, and if you wind up having a ton of oil leaking out of it, then obviously you need to
Oh, yeah.
fix it.
I'll-
Because
I'll send it out for service, but in the meantime, it seems all right.
strange. Well, I again have gone another week without touching a car, but that's because I've been quite busy in working on garage stuff. So since the last time we chatted garage and now, a couple big things have happened. Number
Yep.
one, the city of Phoenix said yes to our draft. So they've approved all of our plans. So nothing can stop us as far as city permitting now. So the size of the garage is all good. So that's going to be I think I talked about it before, 30 feet wide by 24 feet deep. It's got 8-foot walls and then a barn style roof. And the peak of the barn is a little over 20 feet, which will give us plenty of room for lifts without having to worry about any kind of clearance issues. That was the reason for going with the barn roof. I was a little nervous about the height of the roof becoming an issue with the city, but they didn't care and they've approved everything. So that was big step number one. Once big step number one was approved, that was the nerve-wracking part because you got to put money out without having approvals, and then also without having financing set. Our financing is also set now for the garage. So we have the money to pay for said garage, plus we have the plans for the garage. So time was here to start making some progress for the garage. So I have moved all of my cars from the paved area of my driveway to the middle of my yard, like a proper broken down car backyard, just temporarily, so I can do some work in the paved area. First things first, we needed to clear an area where the slab is going to go. So the main slab for the building is going to be, I think that's 720 square feet with a 30 by 24. And I had a old slab that went from my driveway in the front through the RV gate all the way to the back wall. So we needed to get rid of that old slab. So Naomi and I watched a bunch of videos. We got a quote from somebody to come remove it, and the quote was over $3,000. So we were like, well, we could probably rent some equipment, and the city of Phoenix has a dumpster service where they'll drop off a dumpster at your house for $160 to drop it off and $160 to pick it up. So I was like, well, we could just do that. I was not all for it, but she is more gung-ho about this kind of stuff than I am. I was ready to pay the $3,000. But nonetheless, we came to an agreement and we decided to give it a go. So we rented the equipment that we've been seeing all the people on the internet using. We rented a jackhammer and a skid steer from Home Depot. So I will just say that step number 1 of renting from Home Depot, it is a wild process. Have you ever rented equipment from Home Depot?
All I rented was a ladder.
Okay. Well, they don't, not only do they not give you any kind of operating lessons, they also don't know how to operate the equipment. So it's just, here's this piece of destruction. Have a nice day. Bring it back
I think
in the
they
same condition.
usually just assume that they're renting to contractors.
I guess. I am not a contractor. So up until this weekend, I had no idea how to use a jackhammer or a skid steer. So I just showed up there with no credentials at all, except for a Home Depot credit card and an ID. And we walked away. Actually, I didn't even go. I shouldn't even say I did, because Naomi went with our neighbor, because our neighbor has a Chevy Colorado that has a higher towing capacity than the Maverick. And a skid steer and trailer weighs like 4,900 pounds or 5,000 pounds or something, which is over the hybrid Maverick's towing capacity. So I came home from work and there was a skid steer and a jackhammer and no instructions on how to use them. So step number 1.
I mean, there is YouTube.
Yeah, well, step number 1 is get the tractor off the trailer. So it's neat because it's a diesel. And obviously I know with a diesel, you have to do the, turn the ignition to on, wait for the glow plugs to do their thing, and then start the vehicle. So I managed to get all that, got it started. And do you know how to operate a skid steer, Andrew?
I think there's like 2 foot pedals and 2 some hand controls.
So there is a foot pedal, but it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with anything that you use in the vehicle. The only thing I can figure is that it's for some kind of PTO or some kind of other attachment. Because not
Okay.
only does it do nothing, but the one that we rented from Home Depot, when I moved the vehicle the first time, the foot pedal actually fell out of the box that holds it. So it wasn't doing anything. It was just floating on the floor the whole time. So I don't know what it's supposed to do, but I did not need it. So 2 sticks control everything. I guess there are a couple of main designs. This particular one was 2 sticks. The left stick controls motion. So front, back, left, right. Now it steers like a tank. So it doesn't have any actual steering parts. It just powers the left side versus the right side in order to pivot on its own axis. So you push the stick forward to go forward, you pull the stick back to go back, and you twist it left or right to turn. And you can do that motion while you're moving it forward or backwards or sitting still.
All right. You've played with a lot of RC cars and you play a lot of video games. I feel like you'd probably pick it up pretty fast.
The only issue I had was the invert X and Y axis. You cannot do that on the skid steer.
Oh, you can't hit it. You can't pull up a HUD in front of you and change it.
So the right hand stick operates the bucket. So pushing it forward makes it go down, and pulling it back makes it go up, which is the non-inverted y-axis. Twisting it, like you twist the other stick to turn, dumps the bucket. So when you're lifting it up and you twist it to the left, it dumped the bucket out. You twist it to the right, it brings the bucket back up. So you can do all of these 4 motions with just your 2 hands. So once you're comfortable, you can move this thing around pretty easily in the yard, and you get this whole smooth motion of the bucket's going down, I'm scooping, I'm turning left, I'm going forward, I'm making one motion, and you feel like a hero pretty quickly once you figured it out. So it was definitely a bit of a learning experience. The first thing that I couldn't figure out was why I couldn't make it move. It has a very modern car equivalent part. It has an electronic parking brake, which is a big button that's not labeled. So once you find the big not labeled button and you push it because you're out of options of why the vehicle won't move, and you hear it unclick the parking brake. So that's number one. And then you can drive the thing. There's no throttle pedal. Forward and backwards does increase or decrease your speed, but with gearing, not engine speed. And then there's a dial on the front, much like your lawnmower, that shows a picture of a turtle and a rabbit. And you can turn up the idle of the 4-cylinder diesel behind you. Which I did check was not a Mitsubishi. Very disappointed. So you can turn up the idle of the diesel behind you and make the vehicle move faster. Or I don't know if there is an advantage to making it run and having more torque in the picking up of things. I think there probably is.
Or you're running a PTO.
Yeah, there was some kind of a PTO attachment in the front, which we didn't have any of the attachments for it. So anyway, so we are a very traditional gender role household. I drive the Bobcat. She does the jackhammer. That's how it works, right? So she was in the backyard working the jackhammer and jackhammering up the area where I was going to hit it with the Bobcat. Which props to her, because I used that jackhammer a few times, and the amount of hours that she used it would have hurt me significantly. So she made a bunch of holes, because that's what it showed to do to break up concrete, was to make a bunch of holes with the jackhammer and then go in there with the skid steer and pick up with the bucket, and you can break up all of the concrete. So we're like, all right, cool. We started doing it. It was working pretty good. We got about a foot in, and then all progress just stopped. So the whole length of where we're digging up, we could get in about a foot, and that was it. And we were getting super frustrated. Couldn't figure it out. Naomi's brother Chad came by later in the day just to help us with, a bunch of labor. And he was like, all right, let me give it a go. And I was like, all right, maybe I really don't know what I'm doing with a skid steer, and maybe he'll be able to get in there and just knock this thing out. And he couldn't get it done. And he was like, all right, I can't do it either. I was like, okay, well, I don't feel like an idiot. So he's like, no, I watch you driving it. You obviously know what you're doing. I was like, well, I don't, but thank you. So come to find out that now, prior to doing this, Naomi had checked all the records of this property to see if a permit was ever pulled for doing the driveway. And there was never a permit pulled for it. It did not come with the house when it was first built. It was added according to a date scribed into it in 1994. So it was much later, because the house was built in 78. So we knew it wasn't when the house was new. There was no permit ever pulled to pour the concrete. So we just assumed it was and it's a very rough surface concrete. So we just assumed it was a, backyard weekend Home Depot project. It turns out it was not. It was a very legitly poured slab. It is 6 inches thick from the whole entire thing, and it has reinforced with rebar in 1 foot squares the whole way back. So that's why you got in a foot, because that outer foot didn't have any rebar in it. And then once we hit the rebar, we could break the concrete up all we wanted, but there was no way to pick it up or break it up enough for the skid steer to do anything, because of how thick it was and how old it was. 'Cause it's nice and solid right
Sounds
now.
like you need to rent the gas-powered saw.
So the only reason we didn't go with the concrete saw was because the one you can rent can only cut through 2 inches at a time. So we'd have to make at least 3 passes on each one, and it's a pretty significant sized piece. It would have taken an entire weekend of just cutting that up with the saw as amateur, non-actual demo people. Like, we were just trying to do this, without having a 25-year career prior to it, knowing how to do it. So anyway, the good news is we did get a ton of progress done. All of the crushed stone that's in the way has been moved, because we want to save it so we can use it again afterwards. We did demo the edge of the grassy area has like a curbing that goes around it. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those concrete curb machines that like it looks like a Play-Doh machine and it shoots out a curb.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to break up enough of that, or we're going to lose the grass area on that section. We did honestly completely fill the city's dumpster with only what we picked up. So even if we had gotten it all broken up, we would need a bigger dumpster. So unfortunately, we had to bring back all of the equipment because that stuff's expensive and they rent it by the day. So we're out of time. And we spoke to a couple of people to come down and give us another quote. Now, that initial $3,000 quote also involved tearing down our old shed, which we have already taken care of. And actually, we were able to throw all that in the city dumpster as well. So that part's gone. The rock is moved. The concrete curbing is gone. So all that's left is, I'd say there's probably 7/8 of the driveway left to tear up. But also now we know what's involved with it, so it wouldn't be a surprise to somebody to come down and be like, hey, I need a quote to get rid of this concrete. This concrete is 6 inches thick, goes all the way to the wall, and it's got foot-by-foot rebar squares inside there. So this is what you're up against. So the guy who is going to be pouring our new slab is going to come down on Friday and take a look at it and see what he can do. And then we did have one other person quote us $1,400 to get rid of what we have. So all is not lost, because in the end of the day, that $1,400 plus all the equipment rental and everything is still going to be under that initial $3,000 estimate. So hopefully it works out. But step number 1 was a big old failure, except we learned a bunch. We did get a bunch done, and I now know how to drive a skid steer. So life skill improvement, which I guess is worth something, right? It's one of those life lessons you can't.
Yeah. So what did you say? Down on the stick, push the bucket down, and up, hold it
Yes.
up. Yeah, it's like an airplane.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. The only time that is ever any different is like in video game world. So
Yeah. Well, I play with it inverted. So like forward, technically it'd be forward is down like in an airplane, and you pull it back to go up.
right.
I think I actually technically play like southpaw.
I don't know.
However that's.
I'm a lefty. I don't know what I'm doing, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, I can now drive a skid steer. So for all your skid steer needs, I'll come over and make a mess out of your backyard.
I never driven one. They always look kind of fun.
Yeah, no. Once I kind of got the hang of it, it was kind of fun, and I was able to use it to like smooth out the backyard where I had made a mess, kind of digging and kind of.
Can you open a Coke bottle with it?
I cannot. No, I didn't do any tricks. Multiple times I had it on 2 wheels, fronts or rears, but it was usually because of the bucket being down on the ground very far. Only once did I upset it, like with a big load in it and putting it backwards and pulling the front wheels off the ground. And I was like, oh, it's probably too far. We should probably put that back down a bit. Because there was that 6-inch and a little bit deeper, actually, because I was trying to dig underneath it, ledge between the dirt and the concrete. So driving over that with the bucket full and up, I got a little unsettled. But I'm sure it's fine. The way the back of the thing is designed, it's almost like a built-in wheelie bar. So you have to be pretty far and pretty out of balance to go over backwards. So the one thing I will say though is that obviously they're just direct drive. There's no suspension of any kind at all. So when they start bouncing for any reason, it's hard to get out of that. Like if you turn too tight on pavement, it binds up and the thing like skips back and forth, and it just becomes like a violent bucking bronco inside the thing. So you have to learn how to like turn on pavement and stuff. But by the end of the thing, I had it pretty well figured out. So quitting my job as insurance appraiser now and gonna go get into construction. Just drive Bobcats.
Be equipment operator
all day.
Well, you said the paved area, so you can go up to Oak Island and
yes,
work with Billy Gerhardt.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go drive all Billy's equipment. So Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of what happened. Unfortunately, even though the concrete is 6 inches thick, I cannot use the old concrete for the build. There's just too many permitting reasons for that. We did talk to some people about it, and a part of the reason is new concrete and old concrete. You can't have the mix as a foundation on the building. It has to be the same age concrete. The city of Phoenix, I assume, because and another part of the reason here, actually, let me rewind that a little bit, is probably because we're doing a prefab garage. So the prefab company has rules that they can't, not do. So, and we need to have a 12-inch deep footer where the actual building is. So our entire floor is going to be 6 inches, just like this was, but it'll be a 12-inch footer, the shape of the garage. And unfortunately, we couldn't use the old concrete. So it would have been really simple to be able to add to the pad and put a building on top of it. But everybody we asked said, no, you cannot do that. So unfortunately, we had to tear it up. So hopefully by next week, it'll be torn up. So it's all moving along, Andrew. I'm going to have a garage before this coming winter. Hopefully early fall is the plan.
That's good.
Yep. Oh, stoked. Super, super excited. And we have the whole process of trying to tear the yard up is all, we did a time-lapse video, so I'll get that posted up somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
trying to be influencers.
Hey, gotta do something, right? I got a GoPro. I might as well use it.
All right. Anything else?
As far as project car stuff, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, the Maverick is back in the body shop finally. So hopefully for the last time, getting that panel straightened out. It's at a different shop now. It's at a shop that I know and trust. Dropped it off Monday afternoon, so should have that back Friday or Monday of next week. So
Cool.
Updates on that next week.
All right. NASCAR. NASCAR was in New Hampshire this past weekend.
Yes.
So it's only like track is like with traffic, like really only like 2 hours from the house. So not really. That was thunder.
I could not hear it.
Okay. It was pretty loud. Anyway. Yeah, it's only like 2 hours from the house, and yeah, that thunder is ominous because that was definitely happened over the weekend. So it was kind of a gloomy weekend. A lot of rain. I guess they ran the Xfinity race on rain tires. Christopher Bell won. Qualifying was canceled. They did limited practice. They did a weird NASCAR has some weird algorithm when qualifying is not available to like figure out who starts on the pole and the whole running order.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all, so I'm not even going to bring it up.
Yeah, it's weird. It has to do with like season points, owners points, previous wins or something. But somehow Chase Elliott is tied for the points lead, and I don't think he has a race win this season. Not that I can remember.
No, he has one win.
Where did he win?
I don't remember, but they talked about it because he didn't have any last year, and he already had one this year. I can look it up.
I can't remember because the guy is literally beige curtains and just disappears.
100%.
I don't, it's so weird. Like he has like I don't understand why he's so popular. Like we've talked about, he has like zero personality. Like
he won at
least
Texas.
like, okay, at least like Larson is like polarizing. Hamlin polarizing. Like
sure.
At least they have like a personality.
He's just popular because his dad.
But anyway, they put him on the pole. Cool. Hendrick car on the pole. That's cool.
Sure.
It was gray, like weather, but not really raining. A little like super humid, hot. I got some nice tickets. I think I'm going to buy them again next year. They were on the front stretch, just in front of start finish, like 3 sections over, 19th row, which is not very high in New Hampshire, but it's pretty high for New Hampshire because the stands aren't very high. But I had a couple of tickets, so I invited Steve and his wife Katie came. So I think I've got a couple new NASCAR fans. Because once you're there, like the experience of like the sound and the smells,
100%.
it's pretty cool.
100%. It's a totally different place.
New Hampshire's a cool track. I don't know why. I feel like no driver likes any track. Like every time you're watching like coverage of the race, they're like drivers don't really like this track. It's like they don't like any track. I don't understand.
Negativity sells, Andrew. Negativity sells.
Just it's they call it the Magic Mile. It's a 1 mile short track. It's got limited banking. It's
progressive banking.
It's kind of weird. They've done. Yeah, it's progressive, so it gets steeper as it goes up, but it's still not that much. It's only 7 degrees at the most. It's like 2 to 7 or something. And they've done some repaves over the years. And it's got different pavement in the middle of the corners. So they haven't done like a full repave.
It's also a fun fact: the only NASCAR track that both of us have driven cars on.
It's true. And it's the only NASCAR race in New England and in the basically in the Northeast, other than Watkins Glen.
It's the only oval in the Northeast at all. The next closest race is in Virginia. So,
yeah, kind of wild.
Oh, I guess maybe I don't know. I don't know what's closer, Virginia or the Poconos, because the Poconos aren't like Eastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, or maybe Delaware.
It doesn't matter. I think a couple of people said maybe Delaware, Dover.
Yeah.
No, that's Tennessee.
No, Dover's Delaware. You're correct.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Again, going back to that school thing, man. We're good at English. That's about it.
Yeah, it's the most Northeast oval.
Yes, for sure.
For big races. There's tons of small tracks around here in New England, but it's the only one that does a cup race. So where was I going with this? Yeah, it's a cool track. Like, weather held out. They got most of the race in.
There were like 86 laps or 89 laps left at the end.
So the first stage, kind of boring. Second stage, when pit strategy started to come in with it started to get more exciting. There was more passing going on. I was really happy for Todd Gilliland. He was out leading some laps. That car was cool looking, the pickle car.
Yes, I love the fact that just
Lionel makes
pickle
that
car at the side.
Yeah. And then towards the end of the second stage and the beginning of the third stage, the final stage, it really started to pick up because I guess there's like limited cell service because there's so many people. They knew the rain was coming. So they were trying to get as good as track position as they could. And I think when they red flagged it, Tyler Reddick was in the lead.
He was, yeah.
So,
the blue and white, whatever sponsor car.
It was funny because they pulled him in. They pulled in the pits like they were going to do a non-competition like tire change, and there was like 80 laps to go, and they literally sat for like a half an hour, and it was just barely sprinkling, and like couldn't really pull up anything.
So, as somebody who's watching on television, I can give you the report. It was lightning was the reason they stopped. They had to pull the people in the communications down because they couldn't be up on top of the towers because lightning was too close by. So they had to stop the race. They couldn't have spotters. They couldn't run the race.
So that didn't happen for half an hour. There was a lightning bolt. That was when we finally left.
But the lightning was close enough. That's why they were stopped for that full half hour. Yeah. They couldn't have spotters on top of the stand.
And when people are like, they didn't do this before, it's like, well, lightning detection didn't really exist before.
100%
now they can detect lightning. So that's the thing. I don't know. It's just best operating practices or something. I don't know if I don't think it's a law anywhere. It's just what you do at major sporting events. If there's a lightning strike within 30 miles or 25 miles or something, it's within a certain distance. A lightning strike means 30-minute delay.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not even a
And-
best operating practice. It's probably an insurance regulation. Like if
Somewhere
something happens
but
and
I've heard this
you get hit by lightning and all of a sudden NASCAR's got a lawsuit in their hands because they didn't clear you out of the stands. So
I've heard it for other events too. So it's some sort of guidance that somebody has come up with somewhere that it's basically like a lightning strike, 30 minutes, another one, 30, it just compounds until
Sure.
it's gone. So we're like, well, there's no place really to go.
this is shades
and
of
it was already
Indy all
like-
over again, but you're only 2 hours from home instead of 200
Yeah,
miles.
it was the same type of like gloominess as it was the day started at Indy. So, we were just like, well, it's already almost 5. Marco's been up basically the entire race. Like he didn't take any nap. He was really into it. As soon as that lightning hit, we're like, sorry, bud, we got to go. And he's like, he really wanted to see the end of the race. And I was like, I'm sorry, but we have no place to go. And as soon as we sit in the car, you're going to like fall asleep.
Immediately,
So we might as well go home. And then they showed on the broadcast, it started downpouring. It downpoured for 40 minutes to an hour as we left. So it ended up turning to like a 2.5 hour delay.
It was almost 2.5 hours by the time the actual delay was called.
We were home before the delay was over. So
Okay.
that's how close
Yeah.
we actually are to the racetrack.
Pretty good. Well, I mean,
Um,
we've gone to that track a lot for non-NASCAR things. Like we used to go do autocrosses in the front parking lot, and we've done TSDs that end there, and you've done track days there. So it's a close track.
So I thought for sure they were going to just call it because it didn't seem like they were going to put the rain tires on. That is the longest track at 1 point something miles that they will do rain tires. I was looking at the cars actually too. I didn't see wipers.
There are no wipers.
And then they explained that on the broadcast when I was watching it that they don't want to run the wipers because it just makes it worse, the spray. Or they decided they would run in like a light rain to damp to wet track, but not a downpour.
Correct.
Because the
They don't have wipers. They don't
But-
have mud flaps. So there's no way for them to drive in really wet track or with the actual rain coming down. And the other issue,
I thought they always ran the quote unquote mud guards. I thought those were standard spec. They always ran them.
only on road courses. So there's no mud flaps in the car at all. And also the other issue is that there is no standard defog on the cars. Each team
Yeah, that was
makes
weird.
their own however they want to. So you can put like a computer fan dashboard in a tube. Like
So they eventually made the decision to run on rains. I'm super, super salty that I did not see them run on rains because the race totally changed on the rain tire.
yeah, 100%.
Like suddenly there's like 6 lanes on this racetrack.
There at one point they were cars 5 wide.
Clearly they need a soft tire for the short tracks. Like, just take this rain tire and make it a slick, whatever the
Yeah,
hell it's
pretty
made out
much.
of. Like, come on.
Maybe a little bit more because it only lasted about 10 laps under hard dry
All right,
conditions.
it needs to last like
25, 30.
25 to 30 laps. And then give them you might as well give them the option of like, that's the soft, and then the hard is one that lasts.
Yeah, just like
100
IndyCar.
laps.
They do the, red tire, black tire, whatever.
Yeah. Because it's wild. So I was like, Christopher Bell's probably going to win this race before any of this stuff happened. I'm like, he won the day before. He's pretty strong on this track. He'll probably win.
He's run there competitively 12 times, and he's won 7 between
Yeah.
Cup and Xfinity.
And he's a literal child.
Yes, he's definitely a child. Yes. I think he starts kindergarten with Marco in a couple of years, actually.
Yeah. So, and he was like, suddenly that car is super strong. It came out, and just like started driving away from people. And crazy enough is that like other cars that were not that competitive suddenly started driving to the front on these different tires, which was cool.
Yeah, because the car was set up properly on slicks. It wasn't set up for rain tires. There's only so many things they can change in the pits.
Yeah.
So makes a big difference.
And interestingly, Chase Briscoe drove right to the front.
Yep.
who Chris Bell mistakenly on Friday announced was moving to Joe Gibbs
Yep.
Racing, and then officially announced it yesterday. So that was kind of funny. But it was a cool race, and I'm like I said, I'm bummed that I didn't get to see the finish in person. But I will definitely go back again. I haven't been in a long time, and it was better than I remembered it. I don't know. I was having a hard time remembering, like, one of the last times Stephanie and I went was probably 2008, 2009. We probably got free tickets.
And you weren't a
We were
fan
driving my
much
Evo
then?
there. Nope, because it was also 2008, 2009 was kind of like, meh. I don't think the racing was that good. Maybe.
Was that car tomorrow, maybe?
I think so.
Well,
I don't
I haven't
remember.
been there since a little before.
I
then.
remember going in the late 90s in the summertime. My dad getting tickets and going with you and your dad. So it's kind of funny. We got to watch like all the old cool drivers race there. We've seen Earnhardt race there and Gordon race there. And I remember my parents got free tickets to the inaugural race there in 1993. We went. So
it's also neat that we've both now seen Christopher Bell win a race this year because he won at Phoenix too.
Oh, right. But it was cool. No, I forgot where I was going with this. But we were talking about that thought's gone. The other week about how the engines don't last, and it's rare to see them blow up, and Alex Bowman blew up right in front of us.
Yeah, and that's a Hendrick car, right?
Hendrick car.
Wild.
But that's like the fourth Hendrick driver, so he's like the Hendrick driver nobody talks about. He's like the Jan of the Hendrick drivers.
But it's still a Hendrick car. It's the same parts. It's the third engine this year to blow up. Not third Hendrick car, but the third car this year to blow up, which I don't think there were many at all last year. There's been 3 failures this year already, halfway through the season. So interesting. But no, it was a good race. The rain tire change made a huge change at the end. There were tons of passing. There was tons of racing lines. I guess one of the big things was they were trying to figure out where these tires were working on the track, and just it opened up so much more of the track to be actually functional as a racetrack. And you had guys in the same lap, one up by the wall, one down on the apron, and anywhere in between.
Yeah,
and it was really fun to watch. It was fun to watch them go into the corner and be almost side by side, and the guy on the apron passes the guy up the top of the track. And it's like, oh man, he cleared him, no problem at all. And by the time the corner ends, they're back in the straightaway and they're door to door again. Like, awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of Hamlin racing Larson real hard, and then Larson's spotter giving him
a hard time
about it.
And Larson told him to shut the F up.
Like...
His spotter. Yeah. Which I listened to Hamlin's podcast today, and they asked him about that. And he was like, I don't think we did anything wrong. He's like, it's just 2 drivers driving hard. He's like, and
why does everybody think it's nobody should think it's wrong? He didn't do anything dirty.
No, they just
raced him hard. It was clean.
He goes in.
It was clean.
But he
raced him aggressive.
We get a little aggressive. He's like, nobody says anything when he does it to me. What does it matter if I do it to him? Like, we're just driving hard. My car was faster than his. I wanted to be in front of him, and he was pushing the issue. So he's like, I think he was right to spot of that. He used the spotter's name. He goes, maybe whoever's name is should shut the F up.
Yeah, but it wasn't like
it wasn't egregious.
It wasn't a Kyle Busch move where he just like pit maneuvered him out of the way. No. Speaking of, I think Kyle Busch had like one of the worst races I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's been in a terrible year in general. And
then I think I feel like he got to that point where they were under caution trying out the rain tires, and he just drove into the wall. I feel like that was intentional.
So also I learned on the Hamlin podcast today too what he thinks happened, and I'll take it from him because he's a driver. His assumption is that he was trying out different areas of the track and trying different things to see how much grip there was, and F around and find out. He went a little too hard and lost it. So I think that's what
sure.
Hamlin said. So that probably makes the most sense. But I don't think a driver would just be like, you know what, this day sucks, crash, I'm done.
I mean, it felt like I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm just
threw a
gonna.
fit.
I just put it in the wall here. I can just say it got out from under me, and I can just go home because I've been having a bad day.
Maybe. Who knows? But it was definitely weird.
Because it wasn't like a super hard hit,
Just
but it was like enough.
Two cars crashed under caution. So
it was weird.
Well, whatever.
But it's a good race. They're doing Chicago this
Next
week?
weekend.
No, they're going some next weekend. And then there's like, it's weird because now they're on NBC and they're doing they kind of need it. The drivers need it. They're doing an Olympic break for like 2 weeks. So there won't be any races.
Which is fine.
But yeah.
We all needed to get home projects done and not watch racing. Although we can just watch.
Well, it's the magic of DVR.
Just watch something else anyway because there's plenty of racing on right now.
Which I haven't even. I got to catch up with. IMSA was at Watkins Glen. I didn't get to watch any of the recap yet, and I guess the IndyCar race at Laguna Seca was pretty wild too. So I got to watch the recap. I saw
the last
of that.
10 laps of that because it was on after the NASCAR race. So.
Yeah, my DVR got messed up because it was like they were supposed to do them back to back, but the 2-hour delay, like they moved the race to a different channel.
Yeah, it screwed everything up. It was on.
The end of my NASCAR race DVR was actually the IndyCar race. It was titled wrong.
That's weird. I watched it on Peacock, I think. That's where I saw the IndyCar race. I will say though that the NASCAR event going almost 3 hours overtime there. They showed fans walking into the stands, and they had food, so they did a better job of that than Indy did.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it was a longer. Oh yeah, I guess it was about.
I guess a lot more people went home probably from NASCAR too, because it's not as big of a deal as Indy. There's probably less people there from out of town. It's
a bunch of like a whole row of seats in front of us was empty, and then like the guys that were just to the left. Like got up, they're like, "Oh, the rain's 30 minutes out. We're leaving." We're like, "We're not leaving. We're hanging out. Like, we're not that far from home. Like, they might get this in."
And they did. Credit to NASCAR. They had tires. They said they'd use them if they could, and they made an effort to use them. So
yeah, if there wasn't lightning, I would have seen it sooner. Yeah. So that's what messed me up.
So anyway, it was a good event.
Also, Marco, for some reason, super fixated on Joey Logano.
I saw the picture.
I don't know why. Maybe because
that Stephanie posted, he's holding the 22 car. So
yeah, that's like the car he wanted to get at. So we went over the hauler, got the car, or over the merch hauler, and it turned out that where our seats were, because of the way they did the seated draw to do the start, his pit box was like right in front of us. So I was like,
another polarizing figure in the sport.
He was doing pretty well, looking for a win, and then that car he got into it with Elliott, strangely. But anyway, it was. I don't know if Marco watches when we watch because a lot of times they'll interview him during like qualifying and stuff for whatever reason because he gives a decent interview because he's kind of like goofy and smiley. Like maybe that's why he's into him.
I don't know. Yeah, he has that he has that.
He's like a man child though. It's funny. Yeah.
And listen, they're all race car drivers. They're all man children. It's fine.
Yeah.
And some of them, like Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs, are actual children. So,
you know what? But watching Christopher Bell give those interviews, and even though he messed up dropping Chase Briscoe's name by accident, and then it seems like they punched him by making him do the announcement the other day, he's actually a really good interview.
100%. He's much better than Ty Gibbs.
He actually has some charisma.
He's had the sportscast lesson. I'm sure. I think we're going to see his name for a long time racing, and then he'll probably be a commentator afterwards, just because he is definitely a very well spoken, a good ambassador for the sport for sure.
But anyway, that was my NASCAR experience. It's cool to go to 2 races this season, Daytona and this.
Make them both rain out.
Yeah. Rolex was gorgeous. I don't know what
You're
my
1
luck
for 4
is here with. Watkins Glen was gorgeous last year too. Weird. I don't know. I think the only other race I want to go to maybe is Indy 8-hour. We'll see, because it's like tickets are like super cheap.
They should come out to.
Because who wants to go to Indianapolis in October?
That's true.
No
Yeah.
one.
Or you can come out to Phoenix for the Cup race too. Could be a good one.
Yeah, if we can get tickets though.
I'm sure we can buy them right now. We can buy them second hand, like StubHub kind of thing, or whatever the Vivid Seats or whatever they sell them at.
We'll
Yeah.
see. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think it's an episode.
Oh, I think what we forgot to talk about was
Let's hold off on that till next week with
The-
more information.
yeah, we can go into that some more, but we are aware of the mass RMV weirdness with JDM cars and K cars and
Non-gay cars.
the implications for other cars potentially.
Right now, it seems like it's an issue with just JDM cars, which is interesting.
Yeah,
And,
but-
and weird. So I have a bit of a concern about this. I've had in the back of my head that I'm going to buy an Evo for a long time, but
It gives me
Do I
pause
wanna
to buy a
spend
Japanese import.
$20,000 plus on something the government might say I can't use. I don't know. I live in Arizona currently, and chances are pretty good that it will never be illegal here, because around here, all you need is 4 wheels and a number you pulled out of thin air, and you can get a license plate. So I'm not
Mhm.
as worried about it here. But, ultimately, if enough states do start enacting this, then
Tanks the market.
it will definitely tank the market, but it will also possibly move from state to state, and it could get here. I'm not even sure what the driving force behind it is, and that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day, but we are aware of it. There is a Facebook group you sent me. It's Massachusetts JDM Import Advocates, I think is the name of the group, or something along
Yeah.
those lines. You can search it and find it. Join up on there and stay informed. If you do have a Japanese market car in Massachusetts, definitely pay attention. Maybe write your local politicians and see if maybe we can get some kind of a campaign going here. There are people doing that, and the more people doing it, the better. Again, I don't live in Massachusetts anymore, but who's to say I won't own property there someday in the future, maybe as a summer place or something.
think-
Who knows?
The whole system needs some revamp, and I have some ideas for that. I'm looking into
So you're gonna run for governor.
trying to contact some lawmakers, just for like enthusiast cars in general. And classic and antique vehicles need better rules in
Yeah,
Massachusetts, I
the
think.
whole you can only drive it for a parade is
Yeah, I don't want to get into it because I'm trying to come up with a whole.
yeah. We'll have
thing
more
when we
next
talk
week on
about
this. I'm pretty sure, but it
We'll actually make notes on
You're
this.
definitely-
That should be our homework. We'll actually create a topic episode about this.
excellent. But it's good to get out.
I'll call it out right now. That's
All right,
yeah. We'll put it out there because that is our.
it's good. It's
that's our
good to get
homework,
the
Brad.
information out there that there is an issue if you haven't heard. So start looking into it. The fear is just like anything else that this is, even if you don't have a Japanese car, but you just have some other old car, and when once one rule happens, other rules are easier to make, right? So let's try to keep things as open as possible. You don't want them ever to say like, hey, you can't drive an old car here anymore. You never know, right? It's who knows. So it's we're gonna have to walk the political line a little bit, but we'll make it work.
Yep. All right. So, as always, got ahead of
You're
myself.
ahead of yourself. Yeah.
You can find me on Ray Snager on Instagram and Threads, and our podcast, Auto Off Topic Podcast, on Facebook, Auto Off Topic on Instagram and Threads. I put a couple NASCAR videos up there. And Brad, where can they find you?
So they can find me on Instagram and Threads at least right now, TSI SS350. Now that I've said it, maybe I do have to change it. Also, find me, and if you're in the Arizona area, please follow us on our page. We're accepting submissions right now to join us for the Arizona Rising Sun Rally, which is happening in October. It's going to be a kind of a point-to-point casual driving event with pre-1995 Japanese cars. So that's the Instagram page is AZ Rising Sun Rally with an E. And you can find us there, and the website is the same. And yeah, look for that if you're in Arizona and you have an old Japanese car and you want to explore some scenic fun roads with other classic Japanese car owners.
All right, cool. As always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.